This is the directions for the collection drawing, which is the summative colored pencil drawing for this cycle of the collective consumer. So what is a collection? Collections are made of objects that are closely related to each other but are still distinct. Collections can be created to demonstrate wealth, provide information for scientific or historical study, document change in things. You can collect for economic investment, for entertainment, or lots of other reasons. And museums and libraries are simply large, very professional collections. This is part of my collection of natural curiosities, and it's kind of wide-ranging. It mostly features natural objects dealing with animals. You can see there's a alligator and a deer and a goat and raccoons, a bobcat. There's lots of different kinds of bones and skulls in there, and one of my microscopes are part of the collection in the science class, and shells. Basically anything that is natural. And even those two figurines, the bear and the Eskimo, are made from mammoth ivory that has been carved, and I was able to acquire those. I really love my collection. I spend a lot of time with it, and this is just a small part of it. So collections can be related by a variable, by where they're displayed or located, or general type of object, or other things. So in this first example, you have a collection of toys that are yellow. Everything from the light ivory colored horses to the really, really bright colored yellow smiley face eraser and things like that. They're all toys. They're all pretty much different, but they all have that color in common. In the middle part, you have a collection of things that are grouped in a container, and that's one of the ways they're related. The container appears to be like an old Christmas ornament box back when they had glass Christmas ornaments before plastic boxes. This is how they were packaged. And you can see down in the bottom there actually is one, though that looks more like a plastic than a glass one. And then the rest of the objects in here there's a lot of natural objects. There's the shell, there's some money seeds, which are the kind of the silvery plant things, sea urchins, an egg, but there's also some paper and packaging and other items. And then on the right, there is a collection that is all butterflies. And the butterflies are all slightly different. Because no two individuals are alike, even if you have replicas of species, but these are all actually different species, even though some of them look very similar. So, collection relating to minimalism and maximalism. Reviewing minimalism is about the essence. The minimalist doesn't collect. They have one perfect example of a thing, like one perfect skeleton key. Art-wise, minimalism focuses on one perfectly drawn object or painted object, or one element or principle of art, like just color or just line. Maximalism collects. They have multiple varieties of an item. They believe that more is more, less negative space, and like the jumbled collection of skeleton keys you see over on the right. So for this studio prompt, you're going to be working with the idea of maximalism. So your studio prompt is you're going to create a realistic colored pencil and watercolor drawing of a collection of objects. You're using the same skill set that you did when you drew the singular piece of candy. The collection can be orderly, or it can be jumbled. You can use a resource photo that is provided. I have a slideshow with the resource photos on it. Or you could photograph a personal collection. Now, because the studio prompt takes all week long, if you choose to do a personal collection, you need to do that at home the first day of class and use that and make sure that it's photographed in a similar format to the other collections that I'm showing you. And that's absolutely fine. It might crunch your time a little bit, but it's a choice. So for our purposes, if you're choosing a personal collection, collections consist of multiple objects. So if you're working with very large objects, I collect cars, I collect horses, I collect yachts, you need to have at least 3, more than 3. More than 5 if they're medium things. And medium is medium-sized objects like furniture, desktop computers, things of that nature. And more than 10 that's small, or a good amount is small. It kind of depends upon your pacing and your drawing skills. If you tend to work quick, you're going to have more objects. And if you work slowly, go with fewer. And here you see 2 arrangements, skeleton keys, orderly at the bottom and jumbled up atop. So your materials for this, you need a really good resource photo that you can look at while you work. I selected the resource collection pictures because of both the items and the photograph of it. If you're working with a personal collection, focus only on the items. Crop it as needed. Items should be against a plain background like you see with the collection of plastic spoons. If you are not happy with my resource photos, if you want to look for one on your own, it must be run through and approved by me to make sure that it fits the bills. You're welcome to do that. Just don't take up too much of your time doing that. Your materials, you're going to have some larger paper, colored pencils, watercolors, a regular pencil, eraser, sharpener, brush, smudging tool, all the normal things that you need. So your process is similar for drawing the singular candy. You're going to create a light line drawing of the objects that should fill the paper. Begin with the background. Fill in your background around the objects with a light neutral base. Think like tan or gray, watered down. Watercolor works really good for it. Just make sure it's extremely watered down and neutral. This kind of just gives you a framework so that you can add things. Work one object at a time. Remember, nothing is pure. Blend and layer your hues. Pay attention to textures as well as values. And then you can also use watercolors to unify and white acrylic for highlights if your object is shiny, just like we did with the candy. Work object to object with cast shadows left. This is a collection of random objects. This is actually from one of my friend's houses. And you can see that there is a variety of textures, a variety of some things are very shiny, like the metal parts on the little tiny book or the mica. And some things are kind of dull, like the spool of thread and the top. And here is a close-up of the objects. And now on to the resource images. These are the resource images that I have for you to choose from. Again, if you choose your own resource image from the internet, please run it by me for approval first. And if you photograph your collection, it should be grouped and blocked and multiple items. Don't give me 3, 5, okay? Multiples. Here is this first one. Is a collection of children's toys, old toys. There's a variety of color. There's some variety in the textures. Most of these are pretty simple shapes. A collection of butterflies. With butterflies, even though it may seem like a very easy thing to do, remember things like symmetry is important. Exactness is important. Coloration, counting, like little divisions within the wings, and noticing, of course, the wing shape. These wings are not shaped the same as these wings or these wings or these wings. All right? Precision. These are eye cups. This is a collection of 5. You can ignore the other items in the background. Eye cups were used to wash out your eyes. You would put like fluid in here, water with some solution in it, and then you kind of put your face down on it, hold it up, and let your wash around your eyes. 7-Up bottles and the Dr. Pepper bottle. Again, ignore the items in the background. You're focusing on the multiple bottles. So you have little tiny medicine bottle, Dr. Pepper bottle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 7-Up bottles, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dark bottles. These are mixing bowls, Pyrex bowls. Some of this is a little blurry, but you can indicate the pattern. What's important is the shape, the sizing, the negative space around it. Marbles. This is not as hard as it looks. Actually, this is probably one of the easier ones. It's similar to the texture spheres that you did during the week that you did the candy and learned how to use colored pencils. So they're all circular. There is some variety in size, and you really have to focus on capturing the luminescence and the shininess and the roundness, and how some are transparent and some are opaque and some are a mixture. All Sorts. Licorice All Sorts, one of my favorite candies. Texture is very similar with these. Again, this is one of probably the easier ones because it looks crowded, but they are basic shapes. You have squares and you have circles. You have the circles that are covered with the non-parallels, the little tiny dot crunchy circles, and some circles are on their side. Various types of sea life. Most of these are seashells. You also have the starfish in here, and you have 3 different types of sand dollars. This is more like a still life. This is a detail of my collection that I showed you earlier, and you have some coral and a butterfly, swallowtail, a bone, the microscope, some shells. There's an alligator jaw, some fossils, raccoon skull, sea sponges, wasp net, aerator, things of that nature. A close-up collection of sea urchins. The challenge with the sea urchins is getting around and making those little dots look dimensional because they are not spots. Spots are flat on a surface. And this is where the spines come out on the sea urchin, and those are raised. Okay, so that's your choice. You have everything from pretty easy to pretty hard. The hardest one would probably be, the bottles is up there with being really hard. The Still Life collection is pretty hard too. And I'll stop flipping by them now. Okay? All right.